It doesn't.
No. All right, here we go. All right, here and okay. Hi there, and welcome to our very special guest, as I mentioned, Maz Farrelly. Maz, thank you so much for joining us. Yay!
Oh, it is both a pleasure and an extraordinary honour for you to ask me to be on your podcast, because I think you are magnificent.
And likewise, Maz, I think we have the Mutual Admiration Society.
Good. I need my numbers pushed up. Great.
Maz, and for those who are listening, you're listening to this series that is called Courage in a Crisis. So it's a series, a podcast series and video series for those who are listening and watching that I've put together. And when COVID-19 hit and we're in this pandemic, I said, okay, I need to go and interview who are the 12 people that I would go, these are the 12 people I want around me if I'm in a crisis. and so we've had some amazing guests on, people who are experts in resilience, in bouncing back and all these things. And I was like, okay, if I had to go through this, I definitely need Maz. Maz is on my list, and Maz is the person I would be coping in a crisis with. So thank you so much for joining. Maz, there are so many reasons for this. And I guess the first thing is, obviously, I might let you talk. I might let you tell us a little bit about your background. I've done a little bit in the intro, but love to hear it from you. Can you tell us about, obviously, the work you've done and the work you're doing now? Like you've had a quite a significant career shift, not business shift, but you've had a lot of things going on in your career. So I don't know where to start. So there's so much there. So you fire away.
Yes, it's been a very crazy career. And if I came back, I wouldn't change a single thing, because I've loved every single moment of it, the good and the bad. I started life as a stylist in London, and Absolutely Fabulous was based on my agent. So I genuinely traveled the world first class, went to champagne parties all the time, was dressed beautifully, and genuinely that was my life, 100%. Then I went to work in telly, and I really got into television to do hard-hitting politics. And I ended up making comedy entertainment and reality shows. So chalk, cheese. And the ones that everyone kind of knows and everyone remembers, I did 5 series of Big Brother here and in the UK, The X Factor, The Farm Wants a Wife, which was just the loveliest show in the world, because they genuinely fall in love with each other and have children and get married, and it's very, very sweet. The Celebrity Apprentice, which is like taking acid. I suspect, I've never taken acid, but I suspect it's very like that, because you have lots of celebrities, and celebrities are very unusual people, because celebrities are always the most famous person in that room until you bring in another 11 celebrities, and then they're not. So it's like an only child at a birthday party. You're kind of looking around going, I'm going to show my toys. So that was interesting. And I helped create Q&A for the ABC. So I've done shows on sport and cooking and dancing and singing and, Dancing with the Stars. Lots of stuff in the UK, worked in LA for a while. And then one day I woke up, and it was like I looked at television and went, I don't love you anymore. And it's not you, it's me. And normally with partners, it's the other way around. It's nothing to do with me, it's completely you. But it was, me looking at TV and going, I don't love you anymore. And I thought, I wonder what I can do with my skills from television. And I realized that when I have content available, it's always number one. So whatever is up against me doesn't win, I win. Every single time. Right. So every show I've made really has been number one. And I think I have an ability to communicate messages to people. I understand why people watch and listen. And it's because for 24 hours a day, I was paying attention to what people watch. And every decision I made was about what's going to engage you, so you watch me. Because I'm in competition with everybody and everything. I'm in competition with your children, with exercise, with books. I'm in competition with the weather. Really good day. People don't watch TV. So I have to get people's attention. I have to hook them in and keep them. So now I do that with people. So someone said I'm like a horse whisperer for humans, and another friend called me the CEO whisperer. So essentially, I take people, I make them the absolute best version of them they can be. Interesting, you know, the way they dress, the way they look, the way they move, how they pitch themselves. Because I say this to people all the time, Jane, and you know this, and anyone who's heard me gabbling on before will know this. It is not my job to be interested in you or your business. It is your job to be interesting. And I cannot say that enough to people. If it's not interesting,
so let's just repeat that, Maz. That I think that I just love it every time you say this, and I find myself repeating it to other people. So
yes,
it's not
true. It is not
so
my
it's
job
not my job to be interested.
It is your job to be interesting.
It's my job to be interesting. It's not your job to be interested. It's my job to be interesting.
It is nobody's job to listen to me. It's my job to be interesting. If you are on a podcast or on a stage or on television or on the radio, it's a privilege. It's a real privilege. It's not a right. So you have to earn it. And if you're inviting people to a meeting, you have to make it an interesting meeting. Otherwise, they're not interested. And they'll be looking at you, but they're not listening.
Right.
And you know yourself, you'll have been at conferences where you're looking at the stage, but you're thinking, I might just have my hair, I might go a little bit darker. And you know, maybe when I get home, I'll just get rid of all my socks and I might get those little socklets. And you're literally like a million miles away. And you're staring, but you're not listening. And I say to people, if it's not interesting to read, I won't read it. I won't click through on your website if it's not interesting. If you post something, I won't watch it. And that's not because I'm particularly mean. I'm just everyone else.
No, and that's the irony. That's what I love about you, Maz. For those who haven't worked with Maz, Maz is the most beautiful, kindest, sweetest person. She doesn't have a bad word to say about anybody. She's always an advocate for people. But what I love about how you operate is when you switch over into it, here's what's commercial or here's what your audience are thinking. I love that because you just go, no, it's boring. It's not interesting. And it's not that you mean that personally. It's because you're the voice of the audience that we're trying to get to, right?
And everybody, we are all everybody. And when I speak to the government, you know, I do stuff with big corporates and with the government, and I say, you think your audience is not my audience. That's what you think. But when my product's available, 3 million people buy my product every time it's available. Now, wouldn't it be lovely if your company, 3 million people bought your product every time? You know, and you can't do anything with my product. You can't put it in a cupboard. You can't drive it. You can't eat it. You can't hang it on a wall.
No.
You can't wear it. It's over really quickly. It adds no value to your life apart from a little bit of entertainment, hopefully, although occasionally not even that. But, you know, it's a product that doesn't really give you anything, and yet people want it. And I say to people, saying to the government when I was talking to them, and I was in there for something else, and they said, what else do you do? I said, right, so I get people to vote for people they don't know and outcomes that do not affect them, and they give me money for the privilege of doing so. And you could see them going, oh, hello. Yes, hello. So, if you want someone to read something, if you want your company, your colleagues, your board, your clients to be engaged with what you are selling them or the message you're giving them, you have to deliver it in a way that they want to hear it. Because if they don't, it's not going in. And if it's not going in, you're in trouble.
Well, you're not having any results, are you? And I think this is the big thing that stood out for me. Because I was like, why have I got to get Maz on? The reason, so many things, because why does being interesting matter at the moment when you're trying to get through a crisis? Like for those people who are listening to this, is that possibly we have lots of experts who listen to the podcast. So they're people who are trying to get cut through in their content. So maybe it's videos and blogs and things like that. There's also so many people stuck on this screen on a Zoom meeting, and people have got Zoom fatigue. And so now we're spending all these endless hours in front of a computer screen and trying to communicate, and people are zoning out, or people are, I have to share with you, I saw a video the other day. It was a young kid with homeschooling that was on, through school, and this kid had filmed himself on Zoom, like as if he was sitting there listening to the lesson. He took the video and loaded it as his virtual background and took off.
Love that child. You see, I love children like that. That's
Isn't
the
that
child
awesome?
I never had. That's the child I wish I had. See, I'm going to say something to you that everyone is going to start boo-hooing me and kind of going, I hate you, I hate you. There's no such thing as Zoom fatigue.
Right.
And there's no such thing as charity fatigue. I did something with a big charity recently, and I was on the panel. Well, it wasn't recently, it was about a year ago, but I'm very old, so that's recently in my life. And I was on the panel with an advertising guy and a social media guy, and they were talking about charity fatigue, and the room was nodding. And I thought, I don't know whether to tell them what I think or whether to just agree with everyone. But I thought there's no respect in agreeing with everyone if it's not honest. So I said, okay, I'm going to say something to you. I think you're going to really hate me, all of you, and especially you two. But I really want to say this to you because you've got to hear it.
Yeah.
There isn't charity fatigue and there isn't Zoom fatigue. You're just not doing it well enough. I haven't cried all the tears I'm going to cry in my life. I haven't felt all the attachment and the emotion. I haven't given away my last dollar. I just haven't. But you're in really, really big competition for dollars. So you've got to work harder. So it's very easy to say, actually, it's not me, it's them. They're fatigued. You go, no, your storytelling isn't good enough. It really isn't good enough. And if you have Zoom fatigue, I will say this to you. When was the last time you had Killing Eve fatigue or the Tiger King fatigue? Oh God, I'm so fatigued watching the Tiger King. I can barely watch 18 of them in an evening. It's not the screen.
So true.
I want to do a book called, am I allowed to say the PENIS word?
Yes.
I want to do a book called The Penis and the PowerPoint. And the thing is, it's not the thing, it's what you do with it. Because I think that PowerPoint can be amazing if you use it properly.
If you use it right.
Really well. It's fascinating. PowerPoint is the reason that Brené Brown is famous. That beautiful moment when she did that research and she said, so I did this and I did this and I talked about this. And you know what happened next? Click, next slide, breakdown.
That's right.
That was amazing content. It was a life-changing moment. And that was vulnerable. The fact that she did that. But if she did it, if she'd said, you know what happened next at a breakdown, 2 years later, my husband left me and the dog went next door and never came back. No. She used PowerPoint in a really amazing, interesting, surprising and entertaining way. And, you know, there's nothing wrong with PowerPoint if you use it properly.
So, Maz, you just started to touch on a point. So, because a couple of things I want to share with people to make sure I don't lose that moment. So you obviously talked about, I don't want to lose what you said there, and I want to talk about your book. So let's go where you just went then, and then I want to talk about your book. But of course, for those who are sitting here listening is going, okay, so if Brené Brown has been able to make that interesting, and that's been a pivotal moment for her career, I'm sitting on Zoom and I've now adopted this philosophy that we've got Zoom fatigue. And so now everybody doesn't want to do Zoom meetings or charity fatigue. And like you say, can you share with us, what are some of the things that you suggest to people? So you talk about, I know you talk about surprise in your, when you speak. I've seen you speak a number of times, which is fantastic. So if people are thinking about getting an amazing speaker for their conferences, you've got to get Maz. So can you give us some idea of what are the principles, or are there any key things behind what makes something interesting that you look for when you're working with people?
Yeah, everyone has an amazing story.
Okay.
Everybody.
Okay.
But it's really, really, really hard work to tell your story. The most difficult thing you will ever write in your life is not your marriage vows or your lease or that's all easy. I love you, darling, and I'm really not going to cheat on you with your really, really hot best friend. We're good. You know, that's quite easy to write. But if you want to write about yourself and explain what you do and why you do it in an entertaining way that grabs my attention and keeps my attention, it's the hardest thing to do.
Yeah.
So have a think about, if you're inviting people to a Zoom meeting, I like to set the scene. So I have maybe 5 slides that I like to have up at the very beginning. that are conversation starters. So
Okay.
things like you're stuck in a reality TV show for a month. Which one? Why? You're in a car chase. What's playing on the radio? What's the song that plays every time you walk into a room? Why?
Yes.
In anything that is a conversation starter, I think
Okay.
gets people just chatting, because you want people to interact. If
Yes.
you do little quizzes, so I do quizzes, and I give my book away. So anything that you get, I ask questions a lot as well, and I interact with people, and I kind of go, oh yeah, I agree with you, Jim. Oh, Bob, completely disagree. Bob, I hate you, Bob. I'm never going to speak to you ever again. So I can't engage people. I have 3 rules of content.
Mm-hmm.
If you get one of them, you're doing really well. If you get 2, you're good. If you're 3, then I will give you a job. And they are these 3 things, which are very, 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 very simple, but it did take me 25 years to really distill it.
Right.
So here's 25 years worth of IP. That's very simple.
Wow. Okay. We feel very special.
Make me laugh. Comedy trumps everything. If you can have one line in your introduction or whatever it is. So when I used to make big reality TV shows, and I was at conferences, and I would say to people, so me, when you watch TV and there's all that reality stuff on, and you just go, is there nothing but this absolute rubbish nonsense on television? All those big reality TV shows, and that they've got a budget of about 20 million, and they've got big stars, they've got big audiences, and they've got big budgets, but you just go, is there nothing but that nonsense on television? I make that nonsense. That's my job. So what I would say to people is, I make the big shows, people give me a lot of money, big audiences, I do the big stuff, but I don't want to say it like, look at me, I'm so magnificent, and I'm really hot as well. I try and do it in a way that is a bit funny. So comedy trumps everything. If you can make your audience laugh in one tiny little way, even if you say, what's going to be interesting today is I'm not at all funny, there'll be no laughs whatsoever. If I sneak in a laugh by mistake, it's a mistake, just so you know. Whatever you can do that gives you some sort of energy, laughter. You never sit at a comedy festival and not laugh. If people are laughing at the table next to you, your laugh makes you feel good. You love it.
Yes.
So make me laugh. The second one,
make me laugh.
Is make me cry.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't suggest people come around my house and say, you've put on weight and you're getting old looking. It's a different kind of cry. It's give me emotion. Make me care. Make me care. On the launch show of things like Big Brother, I ran 5 Big Brothers. We had to get you to care about 12, 15 people.
Yeah.
About 90 minutes. We had to get you to care about them so much that you would stay with us for 100 days.
Wow.
We had to tell a story in 90 seconds about that person that was so full of interest and comedy that it made you care. If you don't care about something on TV, it's dead. People don't care about why you do your business. If they don't feel emotionally attached to you, you've got to get people to care. And the last one is surprise me. Huh? We love surprises. It's why we wrap presents.
Right.
We love on TV the moment where the cloche comes off the beautiful dish. You go, oh my goodness. We open the room and you go, oh, a gold bathroom. You stand on the scales. Oh, you've lost 85 kilos.
Right.
So make me laugh, make me cry, surprise me.
Surprise me. Great.
And if you look at what I think is the best piece of content ever made in the history of content, is the clip of Susan Boyle. It's probably about 15 years old now, maybe 20 years old. Still stands the test of time.
Right.
It is beautifully produced by a guy who used to work for me called Ben Thursby, who's a genius.
Wow.
I'm not expecting anyone to be his standard. However, on Friday night, nobody in the world knew Susan Boyle. On Monday, she was on Oprah. And it's not because she's a great singer. It's because he told a story that made you laugh and made you cry and surprised you. And when I run workshops for people to get a job, which is called How Susan Boyle Can Help You Get a Job. And we play Susan Boyle bingo. And every time you laugh, or you feel like you want to cry, you feel emotional, or you're surprised, you dob it in. Dob, 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 dob.
Right.
It's just magnificent. So I would say, open a bottle of wine later, play it for yourself. Put laugh, cry, surprise, watch it. Tick, 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 tick. It works. You do those 3 things and you think about anything, sports,
Yeah.
news.
I'm thinking, you know,
everything.
you run your meetings, whether it's virtual. If you're listening to this, we have a lot of experts and speakers. I'm thinking your keynotes, your videos. Like there's so much more being done with video content. So
yes,
and that's the simplicity of that. And I get the years of work that have gone into you distilling that, like you said.
It takes a really long time to work out something simple. And the other thing is just don't make it complicated. People are really complicated. You go, make it really simple. Simple is everything. And the last thing I would say is you have to grab my attention really quickly.
Okay.
I call it prime real estate. Lots of speakers. So for all the speakers who are listening to this, I'm going to say something that's going to make you very cross now. When you have the name of your session and your name above it, guess what? I know that.
Yeah, exactly.
I've paid to be there, or I'm on the schedule and I kind of go, okay, so it's Jim Smith and it's all about integration. And you've got Jim Smith integration. That's your prime real estate. People are walking into the room. They're sitting in front of that slide for a long time. That slide has to make me interested in some way, or make me laugh, or set the tone for what's going to happen. Put a joke on it. Do anything. But don't tell me. I call it the
what it says on the brochure.
Yeah, you kind of go, oh, no shit, Sherlock. Of course, that's what it is. And,
I love that,
TV,
Maz.
people say it. They'll say, I really want to win this. I'm going to give it 110%. It's not my time to go. I'm nervous but excited. Dead, white noise.
Same thing.
It's got to be engaging.
I love that, Maz. You know, your
experience. Do you think everyone hates me?
Yes. No,
goodbye.
Of course not. No.
It's all over. I'm moving.
I love that, Maz, because all those things also stand the test of time. Like that's 25 years of work, and that's regardless. Like what I love about what you're saying is, despite disruption, despite change, despite pivoting, despite all these things, is that those things are still a constant. Those things have not changed, and those things are still more relevant than ever. It's just that when you're dealing, the thing is at the moment we're dealing with so much more noise than what we have, so we still have, if we look at, there's more eyeballs on computer screens. There's people trying to cope with so much going on at home. Kids are back at school by now, obviously, but for a lot, they're coping with kids who have been at home, but they're coping with everything going on. So we've got to work harder to get the cut through and to get the attention. So it's almost like what you're saying is almost that end 10x it, because at the moment you've kind of got to get as much cut through as you possibly can.
It's the single most vital thing in every business is attention. Yeah. It's attention. It's what we're all fighting for. And the great comfort I can give everyone is this, that the world is changing, the world is changing, the world has changed. And, we use phones, we use laptops, we use everything else. But here is the absolute fact of life. The software that you and I use, Jane, every single day, for every decision we make has not changed since the dawn of time. And it is this.
It's true.
It's my brain. And it doesn't matter whether information is coming at me on my iPhone or on my laptop or on a tablet or on a big screen, or if I'm reading it in a book or someone's shouting at me, through a window. It doesn't matter, because I will process it with this. And people get really complicated about stuff. They get it doesn't matter how it comes to me. If it isn't interesting, I will not give you my attention. It is that simple. It is the number one thing. The number one thing before you do anything else in your life, you have to have attention. And then you can go on to inform or sell or offer your service or whatever it is that is your business, or speak to people or make video, whatever it is. But if you don't have my attention in the first place, does it matter if you have the best product or the service in the world?
Yes.
No one knows about it. Nobody cares.
Right.
Nobody's engaged, and no one's going to buy it.
No. And just on that, Maz, what I haven't asked you about is the print on your wall behind you about the element of surprise. So people are probably watching you going, is she going to ask her about it? And I've been meaning to. So, and that creates, it's that whole curiosity thing, right? So can you tell us a bit about it?
Yes, I bought it in Cuba, and he is a cigar magnate. And the reason I bought it is my father, who has passed away, loved cigars. And he used to pretend that he didn't smoke, but he used to smell of cigars all the time. And he spent an enormous amount of time walking the dog or in the shed. And he would come back smelling like
Poor
Christmas.
dog.
Yeah, and we kind of go, "Are you smoking cigars?" I go, "Not me. Good Lord, no." And my father looked very like this guy. So
oh, really?
he's been to, I think he's been to LA with me, and to London, and to Melbourne, and to the Gold Coast, and lots of art I give away to friends to kind of babysit, but he comes with me.
Oh, I love that. What a great story. Maz, so you have to tell us, the next thing I wanted to get to was your book. You've written this fantastic book, which I just love, and so much to love about your book. First of all, it's called Not Famous, Stories to Help You Navigate the Biggest Show of All, Life. And how awesome is the title? I love the color, like this artwork of you. It's just, you are so cool. Maz,
I love you.
And so many reasons to love this. If you haven't read Maz's book, it's full of all her amazing stories in her life. So all the famous people she's met, it's pretty much mostly full of stories of working with famous people, but all the things that she learnt as a result of working with all these people. There's stories like of people like Harrison Ford and all sorts of people. There's hilarious stories. Michael Hutchins, so I remember the story about him.
I loved him.
There's so many here. It's such a great book. What made you decide to start to tell all your stories? What made you decide to write the book and to start to share some of this?
Well, I'd been meaning to write a book forever. And I knew that, I've had a really amazingly wonderful career, fashion, then TV, and now speaking and training. Just, I couldn't do this now without having done that. It would be impossible, because, the more things that go wrong, the smarter you get. And it's great. We learn so much from when things go wrong. And what's brilliant in my life is when I've made mistakes, you've all read about them. The front page of everything. Someone sent me, my lovely ex-business partner, Alison Black, the world's loveliest woman. She sent me a thing yesterday about the launch of Big Brother, and it had the 10 most controversial moments on Big Brother. How many of the top 5 do you think were mine?
Oh, all yours. Yeah, that's right.
4.
4 of them.
4 of the top 5
there you go.
were mine. And I was flicking through and I went, oh yeah, I did that one.
Yep.
Oh, yeah, I did that one. Yeah, that's mine. And then number 4 wasn't. Brilliant. Only 3. Number 5, that's mine. So yes, it's been a really, really, really amazing life. I have met so many celebrities, and I've paid attention to them and why they're at the top of their game. Right. And it's not a mistake, that people like Arnold Schwarzenegger are Arnold Schwarzenegger. This is a man who came to America, with a very heavy accent, couldn't act really, but became one of the most famous men on earth. And you think there's a reason for that. It's not a fluke. None of it is a fluke. So I looked at all of them and I thought, what have I learned from you? And I knew I wanted to write a book, and I thought, I don't want to write a memoir because who cares? But I wanted to write a book that would benefit people. So I have a list of about 100 stories and what I've learned from people. And this one was written for the CEO Summit back in February. So it's a limited edition. And it's the one that's going to publishers, see if they like it enough to give me some money and say, hey, yeah, write the big book. And I want to split them into leadership, communications, leaving school, reinventing yourself, why failure is fantastic, and really theme them. But I like things that are really simple.
Yes.
I'm very, 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 very simple in my thinking. I can take very complicated things and make them simple, which is essentially what television is. You take stuff that isn't very interesting, you make it interesting, you make it very simple, everyone can understand it. It's great. So I wanted to write a book that was very easy to understand, had a structure. So I'm going to tell you a story, and then I'm going to tell you what I've learned from the story, and I'm going to reiterate what I've learned from the story, and then I'm going to give you a little exercise so you can remember what you've learned from the story. I'm thinking of making it 7 chapters and calling it the movement. So you read it in the loo, and you read one chapter a day, And at the end of the week, your life's changed.
I love that. That's hilarious.
Book for the toilet.
I love it, Maz. I love it. Maz, just quickly, can you share with, if you had to choose a story out of your book that you think would be one of your favorites, or one of the most memorable, or the one that you learnt the most from, in terms of what's in here, to give people a bit of an idea, and also to give people a bit of an idea if they want to get you to come and work with their teams, or if you're speaking at an event. Does anything come to mind? I'm putting you on the spot a little bit, I know.
I know, completely. Yeah, absolutely. I firmly believe that good leadership trickles down from the top. Very simple. You know, when I used to run Big Brother, I never rushed anywhere, ever. You know, if things were an absolute catastrophe, I kept smiling, because I thought, if everyone, I'm a bit of a nervous flyer, so I watch the hosties, and if all of them go to the back of the plane and think the plane's on fire, you know, because I love to catastrophize everything I can. So I wanted to be the person that was the calm. And, you know, if people came into the office and they'd say, right, I've done something terrible. They go, okay, how terrible? Is it full front page terrible? Or is it page 5 terrible? Or are we just a little bit in confidential? And they go, page 1. They go, okay, you better sit down. You know, what do you do? So I worked on a show called The Big Breakfast, and it was a morning show, right? With Paulie Yates. And I have to say, I really loved Paula. I really, really liked her. She was very famous, had no idea that she was really famous, and she wasn't terribly interested in famous people, because she'd been surrounded by them all her life. So it didn't mean anything to her. And we were interviewing Arnold Schwarzenegger, and Arnold Schwarzenegger was the biggest star in the world at the time. He was Arnie, you know, he's the man with, you know, 5 syllables. I 5 letters rather, 2 syllables. This is like it's a film. And we had 7 minutes with him. And from the moment he walks in the door to the moment he leaves. And his publicist and his whole team were terrifying. And saying, you know, you have 7 minutes with him, not 7.5, you have 7. And you've got to be polite to Mr. Schwartz. I went, no, we're ready to go. We're all set up. We're good. We'll take 7 minutes. And I said to Paula, you know, be nice to him, Paula. He's very, 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 very famous. And Paula just didn't understand famous people at all. She's just fine with everyone, didn't care. I went, no, be nice. And she said, I know him. It's fine. I know him. Great. So Arnold Schwarzenegger walked in, and he did this thing that I think really smart and very charismatic people do. He made eye contact with all of us. So I said, hi, I'm Maz. I'm the producer. Shook hands with him. And, you know, he looks you in the eye and he smiles. Hello, Maz. Nice to meet you. And then camera, light, you know, this is the celebrity producer, Susie. This is, you know, went around the room, made eye contact with all of us. And I said, and this is Paula. And I said, I think you've met Paula before. And he said, yes, I have met Paula. She's been to my home. And Paula said, yes, I have met this old. And then she called him the C word.
Oh.
And at this point, the publicist is literally like, her face is here, boring through my brain, straight out the other side, like literally lasering the wallpaper off the wall. And I just think, well, this is all over. I'm going to open a cake shop in Bath or become a surrogate mother or something. And he did this thing that brilliant leaders do. And he looked at Paula, and at that moment, he could have turned around and he could have walked out. He's a really big star. And we would have talked about it, but not that much, because we don't want to be indiscreet. And you know what, we would have deserved it, really. And we want other people from the film company. We probably wouldn't have said much. We would have gone home and said, bad day. But he didn't. He started to laugh so hard. He laughed and laughed and laughed. And of course, we started laughing. And Paula's just smiling at him, because she knows, you know, she didn't care either way. She's just like that. Yeah. You know, all kind of cuteness and beautiful. And, you know, she started laughing. She went, so let me tell you the story. And then he started to tell me the story of Paula was at his house and why she'd called him the C word. And she was chatting to him and Warren Beatty, good name dropping. And, and he's saying it to me like he's sort of pleading his case with me, like I'm Judge Judy. And I'm looking at him like, oh, yeah, okay, yeah. Right, what happened next? Okay, yeah, that seems reasonable. And anyway, he was chatting, and Baby Peaches when they were chatting, pulled Paula's dress apart and just clamped onto Paula's breast and started breastfeeding. And Paula couldn't care less. She couldn't care less. And to make sure that she wasn't embarrassed, like it was possible for Paula to be embarrassed, Warren Beatty and lovely Arnie walked off. It just turned around and walked off to, you know, save her modesty. And of course, Paula has no modesty. So she just thought, what are they walking off for? And then she started to tell the story. So I'm Judge Judy. I'm like, I'm done with you. I'm just hearing her now. Yeah, rest your case, Your Honour. And then she started telling me. And then, you know, they turned, and for God's sake, it's a baby. And you couldn't see anything. Her head was, and so everyone was laughing. But I thought, you chose the tone of the room. You set the tone for that room. And you know that you're the leader in that room. You know, he's smart enough to know that he absolutely set the tone. And when he started really, 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 really laughing, we all laughed. And I think that leaders forget that sometimes that you set the tone. In a meeting, if you walk in and you're full of laughter and you start the meeting in a funny way and you're warm and you're kind to everyone, guess what?
Yes.
Everyone will enjoy it and they'll be warm and kind when they leave the room.
Yes.
And it's your job as a leader, like a parent, to love your kids, even the naughty ones that sometimes you don't really like.
Yes.
It's your job to love them. It's your job. It's actually the transference of labour and love and money. Someone's giving you money to love them, and some of them are difficult children. But
that's
I think
so true.
That was profound. And a very quick one. Mary J. Blige. I said, "What's the best advice anyone's ever given you?" The rapper. She said, Shaka Khan had said to her once, "Mary, get out of your own way." Oh my God. And I said, "Were you in your way?" And she went, "Oh yeah, I was finding 1,000 reasons not to do stuff." Wow. I thought, yeah, I'm in my own way sometimes.
Yeah. She's amazing too. I've seen her in concert here in Brisbane. She was just extraordinary.
She's great. I really liked her. I did a show in LA called LA Pool Party, which I thought was the worst show ever made, but it won an award, so what do I know? And it just wasn't for me. It was for young people. I was probably about 36 or something at the time. It's probably for 19-year-olds. And she arrived and it was a big setup, like big house, and there's extras everywhere, probably about 60 extras, and, you know, 20 cameras, a big deal. And I said, "Hello, Mary, I'm Maz, I'm the producer." And she said, "You're on this?" And, "Yeah." And I introduced her to the hosts, 3 women. She went, "3 women hosts?" And I said, "Yeah." And at the end of it, she just pulled me to one side and she said, "I have a lot of respect for you." And I said, "Oh, well, same with you." And I said, "You know, everything I've read about you has said that you're really difficult and you could not be more charming. You are absolutely so supportive and charming and lovely." And she said, "Here's the thing. I'm in a meeting with Jay-Z and Snoop and I ask for something and I'm difficult and they're great businessmen." And she said, "It's really different in my world. You know, I'm seen as difficult. They're seen as really smart." And she said, "I know in your industry that you will have worked twice as hard as most of the guys for, you know, half the money, half the praise. If you're running this, you're good." Joe, I am actually. I am good. Yes, thank you. Girlfriend, very bad with money, but I'm very good at making television.
Well, what a great story. Like, both those stories are just, I love that, you know, you've been able to take some of the experiences that you've had and turn them into such great learning opportunities for anyone to be able to come and work with you. So whether it's a group of leaders or whether it's a team, what I love about working with you is that you are deeply insightful, relevant, and you make it so much fun. And so I think you don't even feel like it, for sometimes, you know, after seeing you speak a few times, it's like you forget that you're learning stuff. It just feels like it's really fun, but you forget that you're actually learning some things along the way.
It's very much by design. I call it Trojan horse training.
I like that.
You get to the end, and what I love is when people write to me and they say, "I laughed my head off, and then when I got home, I'd written 32 pages of notes."
Exactly.
Brilliant. You weren't supposed to notice that it was a lecture or a talk.
That you were actually
previous. Working. I want you to learn, so I'm going to make it interesting, because if I just shout at you, you know, 5 facts, they're not going to go in. So when you weave information into stories and you make it as funny as you can, and you can be surprising, you know, you're making you laugh, you're making you cry, and surprising people. So it does go in. It really sticks in your brain.
Well, Maz, certainly, I think tonight you definitely have done that in terms of we could sit here and chat for hours, and I love listening to you and all your stories and just being able to have that energy and essence and presence of who you are. So, so if you're listening to this or you're watching this interview with Maz and you need to somehow think about ways, whether you want Maz to come and work with your team on that, or maybe you want to learn some ways to make your, whether it's your interactions with your team more interesting, whether it's marketing, whether it's messaging and communications and videos and whatever it might be, is reach out to Maz. So Maz, where do you want people to reach out to you? So where are they best to reach out to you? And have you got anything that, like, do you want them to like request anything from you or anything like that, if they want to access the book, or what are they supposed to do? Where would you like them to go?
Yeah, the easiest thing to do is LinkedIn. So I'm very into LinkedIn at the moment. I've suddenly gone mad for it. On LinkedIn, I am Maz Speaks. So MazSpeaks. Very, very simple. And if you would like a copy of the book, write to me and make me laugh. Make me laugh, you can have a copy of the book.
Make you
I've got
laugh,
about
you get a
20
copy
left. Yeah, if you make me laugh, make me cry, surprise me. And what I would love you to do actually is send me your one line. If you've got a really good one line about yourself, you're going to go. I worked with a woman recently who's a CEO. No, she was a lawyer for CEOs. And we did some work on her one line, and it wasn't wildly interesting. And then we worked it up. And now when she introduces herself to people, she'll say, you know, I'm a high-end lawyer. My job is to make sure I keep senior CEOs out of jail. What a beautiful line. It's such a good line. Give me your one line, make me laugh, make me cry, surprise me, and I'll send you a book. I've got about 20 left, I think. I've got to send some off to publishers, but I've got about 20 in a little box behind me. And they're yours if you'd like them.
All right. Well, get onto it quick, everyone. So if you're watching or listening, reach out to Maz. She's Maz Speaks on LinkedIn, and she wants to hear your one line, or to be able to work out, share with her how you make her laugh, make her cry, and surprise her. And you can get your hands on one of these hot little babies. So, so thank you so much, Maz, for your generosity and your time tonight. I know how busy you are, particularly helping people through all this stuff at the moment. So thank you so much for joining us, and we look forward to having you back on the show with in the new year, perhaps, when all this is past, and then it'll still be, we still need to make people laugh, make people cry and surprise them, but hopefully it's just not hopefully it's in a better environment than it is now. But thank you for helping us find ways to have courage in a crisis, and have the courage out of today to find out ways to have the courage to make things interesting. What I have been saying to people is, during this time, is don't allow this time to allow you to go into panic, fear, and hide and play small. Is that you have to actually work a bit harder. Take the time to have a look at, well, what can I do to make this interesting? Make sure you jump on Maz's website, reach out on LinkedIn, Maz's book, and think about what can you do to make people laugh, cry, and surprise them. And if you can do that, you're going to have people who are a lot more engaged and not suffering from things like Zoom fatigue.
Exactly.
Thanks again for coming on.
So much, Jane. You know, I think you're magnificent, and what you do is your content is phenomenal, and I am very critical of content, obviously, given my job. And your communication is perfect, and you are one of the kindest people I know, so thank you.
Oh, you're so kind. Thank you, Maz. All right.
Thanks,
we'll see you soon. Bye.
Bye.